Hi, I'm Joseph Fung. I'm into building businesses, 5 times founder and CEO, with occasional side quests into music and kung fu.
What does it take to build a business?
Other than a little bit of insanity, it needs grit, a keen appreciation of customers, and I think it's helped by wanting to build really good teams and incredible cultures. I think a lot of people focus on startups because starting from 0 to 1 is often the sexiest part, but the really tough part is taking it further than that. And building something that has longevity and lasting power is tougher, a little less glamorous, but incredibly satisfying. The steel cable through all of the businesses I've built is building a place where great people can do their best work. And so building a place and a system that can offer great jobs to interesting people I want to hang out with, that's really what gets me up. So I think I've done that several times and I'd love to do it again. Today on the Start Well podcast, we'll be talking about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship and the surprising turns that can take you all over the planet.
Yeah, welcome back to Start Well. It's been a few years.
It has been. It's so good to be back. I mean, I love what you've done with the physical space, but it's also really good to be back here in the community.
Nice. Where have you been?
Oh my goodness, all over. I'm based just down the highway in Kitchener, but most recently spent a bunch of time in China and as much time traveling and seeing the world as I can.
Man. Okay, so in order to frame this recent sojourn that you've been on,
That's a good way to put it.
what's the backstory? Because are you from KW? Are you from Kitchener-Waterloo area?
Born in Toronto, went to Waterloo for university, stayed there, and that's where I got married, had kids.
Wow.
So I'd say I'm from KW now. But yeah, been there starting businesses, growing, selling, shuttering some. It's been a fun time.
For our international audience that may not know Ontario too well, I would like your take on what Kitchener-Waterloo is.
You mean more than just being the center of the universe? It's about an hour's drive west of Toronto. Fantastic university and college town. Really high density of startups, engineering, high-tech companies, and just absolutely the best place to build and grow a company.
It's interesting because most people don't think of like small towns as that, right?
They really don't. But I think it's the small town charm that makes it possible. Waterloo's super, super collaborative and genuine, and people really are giving of their time and their energy. So that makes it a lot easier to get to that critical mass when you're starting something new.
Yeah. You went to university there.
I did,
What
yes.
did you study at university?
Computer engineering.
Okay.
Not that I should be a computer engineer. I'm a terrible, terrible engineer. Good at founding companies, but I always feel a little bit like an imposter for wearing the ring still.
Really?
Oh, totally.
Like since you got it?
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
And the ring, for people that are not in Canada, is a thing that engineers get upon graduation,
That's right.
which is a piece of metal from the Tacoma Narrows Bridge.
Not the Tacoma Narrows Bridge,
That was
but that
the
is the
American-
chief lesson. That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there's a bridge in Quebec that failed. And the story is that pieces of steel from the bridge are used to make the rings.
The
Although
story is.
so many rings have been given out. I don't know if that's feasible.
Yeah.
But it is. When we say the pledge and recognize our ethical responsibility as engineers, that's when we wear the ring.
Okay.
And I keep wearing it because, I mean, it's a great way to identify other engineers, but it's also a great reminder of the responsibility we have, not just as engineers, but I think as leaders as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a touchstone.
Well, it's funny because we were talking about this off camera, the idea of like if you're an innovator, it's sort of incumbent upon you in whatever facet to like keep innovating. It's part of your DNA to keep creating solutions and making changes and improvements in whatever you do. And I keep having conversations with startup people that need to be reminded of that, which is really interesting, and that's a larger narrative. We'll come back to this, but this idea of like a startup ecosystem. Actually, maybe we'll start because this relates to this Kitchener-Waterloo thing a little bit,
For sure.
and the versus big city Toronto thing, maybe. When you're in a context like that, and I'm sure coming out of engineering in Kitchener-Waterloo, at what year did you graduate?
Oh, that's a fun one. I graduated in 2004.
Okay.
I say that incorrectly. I should have been in the class of 2004.
Okay.
I actually graduated in 2008.
Oh, okay.
I was too busy running my own business. And that's why I'm a terrible engineer. I did what was enough to pass.
Wait, so you started a business at university?
Yes, that's right.
What was that?
It was a software company
Yeah.
that built a white labeled web content management system. So like WordPress before WordPress.
Yeah.
But we sold it as a white labeled solution. It was rebranded by advertising agencies all around the world.
What?
Fun business, but it meant that trying to build that business and running a full-time course load, I'd have to take a year between terms just to recuperate. So yeah, it took me 8 years to do my undergrad.
Man, because at that time, that's when I was deep into first Joomla, which was Mambo, and then the Drupal open source CMS as well.
Absolutely.
And I was literally just talking yesterday with the Drupal Association about bringing an event to Toronto at Startwell, and it was like this full circle moment. I was like, yes, CMSs still exist.
And you probably remember at the time, Drupal, Joomla, they were so great because they gave you all the configuration, all the power, and the ability to blow your own leg off.
Oh yeah.
So our position was building websites that were ridiculously easy to update.
Okay.
And so we really specialized in a system usable by an everyday mom and pop shop. And for a lot of ad agencies who weren't very technical at the time, that was the right spot.
Man, that's interesting. Because I got out of university at about 2002, and then was in New York 2004, post boom bust, right? So it was already post boom bust, but very close to it. And then the rise of the social network and connected systems and all of this was when you were getting into software.
Absolutely.
That's interesting. But yeah, so you were hitting the ground running at university with business in this region, in the small town, and a town that's probably more densely populated with engineers and software people because of the graduates from that school and the high caliber of the program there at Waterloo University than anywhere else in Canada, right?
Absolutely. In fact, the engineering school was built because of the businesses in the region.
Okay.
Yeah, the businesses that were there originally, a lot of manufacturing, a lot of hardware companies.
As a labor supply.
Yeah, they're the ones who said there's not enough great talent. So at the time, Wilfrid Laurier, WLU, was Waterloo Lutheran University. And they said, how do we build a co-op program so that students can be trained in work and come out with work experience and then ideally work in our businesses? So that was actually the genesis, the idea behind what became the University of Waterloo.
Okay.
So the engineering department's really inextricably tied to this idea of co-op and work and business. And so the local industries and businesses hire a lot of co-op students.
Yeah, and even that program is maybe not today, but originally was unique to the region, right? We in Quebec, I don't think we had cooperative programs.
Yeah, so it's definitely spread. There's a lot more universities out there now who have a similar program, but by a wide margin, Waterloo's is the largest cooperative education system in the world.
And for our listeners, break that down. What is that? For you, what was that? Because you were also running your own company. So how did that work?
Yeah, so it definitely means something different for a student. For a student, what it means is you can earn money while you're at school. So you can pay for your tuition, which is a bit better.
Yeah.
And you finish with effectively 2 years work experience.
Because you're taking breaks from your studies to go do placements in companies as like a junior employee, intern, paid intern kind of thing.
4 months work, 4 months study, 4 months work, and so on until you graduate. And so when you get out into the workforce, it does take you a bit longer. It's a 5-year undergrad as opposed to 4, but you effectively come out with 2 years work experience, massive leg up on the competition.
Yeah. And it just this is the thing that's very, okay, we're going to come back to this because we'll put a pin in that one, right?
Sure.
The today versus the yesterday on that.
Yeah.
On how prepared graduates are and people in general for the workforce. Let's follow the chronology, okay, of your work career, your working career. So after the CMS company, where did that go? Did that die? Did that get sold?
We ended up selling it.
Okay. And who's we?
So my co-founder and I, we split the company in 2 pieces and sold one half to a consultancy and one half to our biggest reseller. We launched a business that became an open source discussion platform.
Wow.
And so that's a nonprofit now, still running. So
what's it called?
Simple Machines Forum.
Okay.
We realized if you're leveraging an open source go-to-market approach, you should have some type of monetization strategy built in on day one, or else when you try to activate that, the community might revolt. And that's really what happened. Open source for some also means thou shalt not make money. And so we had to let that flourish on its own. So it's a nonprofit now, continuing to operate.
Okay.
We built a hyperlocal social network platform. So if you think about a social network for your neighborhood, that was a fun lesson. We had it lined up to sell to our biggest competitor, a US-based business, and went through a process where we quickly learned how to not self-guard ourselves in a negotiation, and the whole deal fell apart. We ended up shuttering that business.
Wow.
Painful, but useful learning experience. Took a couple of years off working at a think tank, launched a venture-backed HR tech company,
Okay.
sold that quite successfully, left that to launch an enablement platform, which we later pivoted into an actual talent development platform. So instead of just selling the software, building talent and selling that, which eventually became Uvaro, which we ended up shutting down in August last year. And now I'm fun employed, but really focusing on the fun, having a lot of good time and rebuilding and re-energizing.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta ask, because I'm sure a lot of our audience don't get the opportunity to like hear this. But you founded, like, since university, it sounded like what, 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 companies?
Yeah, 5 different companies.
With that cadence of starting something and, eventually looking back on it, what's the story? Okay, the back versus the front, okay? Looking back on all these companies, what's the answer to how prepared you were as you were going through founding them to find an exit at some point? To not just be like, this is everything to me, this is my whole life, and this is what I want to do until I die.
It was different for each company.
Okay.
I mean, most recently, we started that company with the goal of tackling a large enough problem that would keep us interested and enthusiastic for at least a couple decades. We founded it right at the time that our daughter was born, our second child, and I promised my wife that I wouldn't start another company till she was out of the house. So I figured it's got to be a 20-year run. So a lot of ambitions, weren't thinking about an exit or a sale. The company right before that, though, TribeHR, we designed the company from the start thinking about how do we learn as quickly as possible, how do we build, and ultimately, how do we end up exiting so that we can take those learnings and apply it? So part of the reason why we focused in on the HR technology space was because there's a very long history of fairly quick, very clear acquisition methodologies. And so that was definitely part of the ethos right from day one.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It could be because I've always been like this bootstrapper in my own mind and like come from this long lineage of like bootstrapped entrepreneurs in my family. But it's funny because it's only in the last few years that I've been considering what that could be. You could build something that has value to another company, and pass it off, and cool, move on to the next problem. For most of my life, I've been so in whatever I've done. If I look back, I've done many companies and many projects, and but at the same time, when I'm in them, it's like all encompassing.
I think there's a distinction there, though, between the initial reasoning and being in the moment. I absolutely agree. When you're in the middle of the fray, you cannot be thinking about anything else except how do you build a great company.
Sure.
And a lot of people say this, hey, great companies are built, not sold. If you focus on an exit, you're never going to get the opportunity. So yeah, we thought about that when we founded the company. That's how we picked a bit of our space. That's how we designed our go-to-market and the segment we were aiming at. The idea was SMBs eventually moving up market, and that's a great pattern for future acquisitions.
Right.
But the moment you raise some money, the moment you bring on some employees, the moment you have customers, you have to be ruthlessly focused about the here and now and build a great company.
Right.
And that's exactly what we did. And the opportunity to sell it, stumbled into us. It wasn't really a deliberate strategy.
Right.
If you paint the picture, it feels like a fairy tale journey of like raise, sell, success. But it really was just about that relentless focus of trying to build a really good product, really good company, and then good things happen.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The first venture, the CMS one, did you raise any capital for that?
No.
So that was bootstrapped. That was just like, let's make this software. It was awesome.
Our first 3 companies were bootstrapped.
Okay.
And I think that was a fantastic place to learn what it means to be a ruthlessly effective operator. You have to really hold yourself accountable. Right. And I mean, shit, I remember taking cash advances on my credit cards to make sure that we hit payroll.
Yeah.
I remember
been there.
Yeah. Like that shit's brutal. I remember
staff don't know.
A co-founder one year didn't put his son in hockey because we didn't earn enough money the year before. Like stuff like that's brutal. Yeah. And we did that 3 times. And that's when I realized, you know what? I got a lot out of bootstrapping 3 businesses, but I needed to do something different to try and play on a bigger stage
Sure.
to learn different things.
Right.
So I took a 2-year break, worked with a think tank, and then launched a venture-backed startup.
What was the think tank?
So I worked at the Center for International Governance Innovation,
Okay.
led digital strategy. They do the kind of international governance, like if you recall way back when a lot of the global economic decision-making moved from the G7 finance ministers to the G20. That decision to include a larger group of people came out of the research that was kind of fundamental to CG's founding.
Okay.
So really cool stuff. Played a great role when Canada was hosting the G20. We did some really cool work with the original committee that did the research prior to launching the UN's global sustainability goals. Worked with some absolutely brilliant people, but also realized my future was not in academia and I needed to get back into a real kind of for-profit operator role.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then back into the fray.
Absolutely.
And that's when also, so raising became a thing that was like necessary for what you wanted to do.
Totally. Because I had never raised money from anyone outside of friends and family with my previous ventures.
So how'd that go down?
You know what? It's so funny. I look at it now and it felt painful and chaotic and I mean, fly by the seat of the pants.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we did turned out to be a really effective playbook. We used online networks like AngelList to extend our network. We pitched to all the angel groups we could. We found an advisor with an accelerator, Communitech, who helped us increase our pace and cadence. We got in touch with a VC that was perfect for our space. And so we abandoned all of our other conversations to bet everything on raising from them. We were successful. We did our first $1 million round. So not massive, but significant, especially at the time. A year and a half later, we raised another $2.5 million. We'd had a couple of notes from friends and family. So like just under 3 million, by then. And then another year and a half after that, we were in the middle of raising a $10 million A when the acquisition offer came by. And so we had that opportunity to trade off, hey, there's this raise that we could do independently. We could see path A for the business, or we could sell the business and see path B. And at the end of the day, I believe we picked the better choice. We sold the company and then stayed 3 years with NetSuite, building their mid-market product and working with the executive team as we crossed $1 billion. And that was a great learning experience too.
Oh, I can imagine, because suddenly now you have a job. That's one side of it. And the second side of it is it's big. It's a big company.
It was so cool though.
Yeah.
It felt like I swapped out a board that would get together once or twice a quarter for a boss who was a founder that I'd have a 15-minute conversation with once or twice a quarter. So it was actually incredibly freeing. And so many of the problems were the same problems with just more zeros.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Problems don't go away. In fact, they might grow, or they grow in scale. As they grow in scale, they grow in kind of insolvability.
Well, it was neat because a lot of the fundamental problems were the same ones. Like, how do you build a great talent pipeline? That's true whether you're a 10-person company, 100-person, 1,500-person company, 10,000. So one of my 2 mandates when we sold the company to NetSuite was to build a development presence in Canada. They didn't have one. And that really came down to a talent pipeline. It was great. We were the only business unit, the only office that was always on or ahead of hiring targets. So that was great. And now NetSuite, now Oracle, because Oracle bought the company, has an incredible dev office in KW. And then the second problem was launching a mid-market HR product. And how do you go about building a new product, selling it, finding early customers?
Relationships is tough.
Well, but it's the same thing as a startup. You got to find early customers, early champions. It just means instead of maybe investing $1 million, you're investing $10 million, just more zeros.
And what would you tell, or do you tell entrepreneurs if they come to you for advice and they're facing that kind of dilemma that you had, which was like, do I keep pushing with this constant raise story? And with every raise, the looming question of ROI for investors is there, and the scale growth question is something I have to answer down the road, or take the M&A opportunity?
Yeah, the advice may sound a little bit glib, but I found it really, really freeing. And it's just focus on what you think is best for the business. The reality is investors are going to take care of themselves. And if they're saying, hey, you should sell the company or you should keep going with it, they're following their interest. They're not really paying attention for what the business needs. There's also inherent conflict. I mean, as a founder, especially as a first-time founder, if you haven't yet had a chance to pocket a big paycheck, it's really enticing. And the first couple of $1 million you pocket is life-changing, not just for you, but for your kids, your family. And that can't be understated.
Right.
And so it's impossible to look at matters without that bias.
Yeah.
But I found if you think about just the company, that really is about the customers. It's about the employees. It's about the vision for the company. It becomes a lot easier to kind of take away some of those distractions.
Mm-hmm.
So for us, the couple of things that came out of that were, what would it mean to grow? Number one, if we had sold the company to NetSuite, we'd immediately have the benefit of their sales organization. NetSuite, especially at the time, was so well regarded for the way their go-to-market team operated, just like clockwork. And we were early enough, our sales team was just a couple of people. And being able to now leverage that was so good for the core business. And the second thing was building the team. Although NetSuite was California-based, so there's that immediate reaction of like, hey, are you going to be selling out? And what does that mean to sell to a US company? And what we actually knew is if we were going to pursue a path of independence,
right,
because we were selling so much in the States, we really actually needed to build a stronger leadership presence in California or in Boston. We already had an office in Boston. My CRO was there. And so that meant myself as a leader probably moving to Boston or to San Francisco. It meant building those office presence, and then the decision-making power, the headquarters of the company would really be south of the border. And even if we weren't moving development and other operations, it would feel like the heart of the company moved.
Right.
Whereas with the mandate when we sold it to NetSuite, and the idea was build a really large presence here, really hire, really have that center of the universe control for the HR product in KW, we're actually building a larger presence in KW. And over the next 3 years, we took that local office from about 16 people to about 180 people.
Wow, that's huge.
It's huge. And now there's so many people that I consider not just former employees, but friends that we hang out with who owe their careers to that presence we built in KW.
Sure.
And candidly, if we continue to build independently, we probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to do that. And part of how I really know that is our lead VC, that one I told you who was so perfect.
And this was local Canadian VC?
No, Boston-based. Incredible VC, like on the Midas list, like 20-something, incredibly successful. He writes a remarkable blog that was always like the Bible for how do you build a SaaS company. 6 months after the acquisition, he called me up. He found another SMB HR tech company he wanted to invest in, and he wanted to make sure I wouldn't be offended. They invested in them, did that $10 million Series A, incredible successful for the first year, and the company's kind of faded into the space because we recognized there wasn't the large long-term opportunity in that segment. So yeah, even to this day, totally believe it was the right decision.
Man, that's great. As you got out of that, Uvaro was the next thing?
It was called Kite at the time, but the same business went through a pivot and a rebranding in the middle. And yeah, moved out of the one business, like kind of hung up the placard on the Friday and started on the Monday on the new thing.
So Kite, Uvaro, the whole thing together was how many years?
8 to the day.
Interesting, right? When you look back, that's a long period of time.
It's like an odd, interesting bitterness where on my last day as CEO, I got the automated email from our HR system saying, congratulations on your 18th anniversary. Yeah, that was fun.
It's funny because I'm at this point with Startwell that I've lost track. Like I don't know if I had a stroke recently, but I just lost track on how long it's been because it doesn't matter anymore, like
when you're focused on something, the length of time doesn't really matter because it's still a joy. But if it's important to you to remember, you could always engrave it on a ring. That's what I did with my wedding anniversary, so I'd never forget it.
Yeah, that's our Wi-Fi password at home.
Ooh, I'm borrowing that one. I like that.
My wife always is like, what's the Wi-Fi password? I'm like, it's our anniversary. And she's like, what is that? It's really funny. Yeah. Okay. So then let's talk about this idea of talent. Like this becomes a thread in your career, right? You're working with talent systems and you're considering how people work together. Original mandate at Kite was what?
We were building an enablement platform. The idea was, how do you help an individual on day zero be as effective as an employee who's been there for a decade?
Okay.
Yeah. And so trying to accelerate that time for people to be highly performant, highly effective, do their best work. That's what we were trying to do. And we built software systems to streamline that.
software systems to help onboarding and education internally. So this
like
is
chatbots, AI-powered playbooks. Think about a cheat sheet that updates itself.
yeah,
Really cool.
very cool. And over the twists and turns over those 8 years, what did you learn from clients and otherwise the marketplace in terms of this question of like how companies approach this idea? Because the way I look at it, most companies throw people into a job and expect them to figure it out. And training materials are like left behind by ex-employees and don't really matter because everyone leaves in a rush.
It's super, super fascinating. I love the fact that we have all of the resources that the web brings us. You can learn anything. The information's right there. But it means that the perceived value of that information is really low. So most businesses, especially startups, they spend pennies on the dollar for employee development. And I'm sure you've seen this, companies who hem and haw over a professional development budget, and maybe they spend $500 per employee. Maybe the really exciting ones spend $1,000 per employee. But that's really not enough to train and develop your people. And if you look at older generations, 100-year companies, they'll invest a lot more. Some of the companies where the best sales reps are trained are companies like Xerox. These aren't, the brands you think of as like the up-and-comers and the exciting ones.
Right.
So one of the things we quickly learned was not just that there's a difference in the dollar, but also a difference in who's willing to pay. So a company might spend, out of that $500 a year budget, maybe they're going to spend, $200, $300 a year on tooling. So if you're selling learning tooling and development tooling, that's kind of the ceiling of the price.
Okay.
But the individuals who are acquiring those skills, they're investing in themselves and their future, and their willingness to pay is a lot higher because they're investing in themselves. And that's evidenced in their spend on post-secondary education. That's the contract. You invest in yourself, you educate, you get a better job. So when we shifted and started saying, hey, let's not just sell a tool, let's actually use that tool to train people. And we helped people who maybe were in sales or marketing in a non-tech industry, upskill, figure out how to translate those skills into tech, and then land a job. They were willing to pay a lot more, and the companies would hire faster and would actually pay them more. So we saw, somebody used our tools at the company, they got to keep their job. They didn't get a raise. But somebody who used our tools to upskill themselves and land a new job, they were growing their salary, not talking about like 10, 20%, like doubling their salary as they switched in. So just incredible benefit for them, incredible benefit for the company.
Focused on tech education?
Yeah, so not technical skills in the forms of like programming and AI, but we really focused on the education that was unique to the tech industry. So like, how do you sell online? How do you support customers who are international? How do you handle business forecasting, operations, or analysis in a SaaS or subscription world? So it's more around the industry that the business worked in than the actual job function.
See, this is fascinating because something that keeps coming up with all of our clients is this idea, especially ones that are growing and they're facing talent acquisition challenges and so on, or churn issues. The last 5 years, of course, that's been a big topic. Pandemic, post-pandemic, hybrid workforce and virtual workforce, and someone wants to work in Bali, but the time zone is making them late for the all hands. So there's all this kind of stuff in flux, and people keep coming up to me and asking, team leads and business owners, really asking about this idea that like they don't know how to teach their teams what the company does, how it should work, and what the future would be. So there's this interesting kind of like thing where I've seen like newcos to up to 100 employees might have good connectivity that like they could socialize the momentum that they might be if they're funded, rolling with. It might also be complete chaos. And people are siloed and they're just like spinning wheels until like they can't get that big raise and then it dies. But then you've got this like mid-tier and large enterprise where you can't really fuck it up. So tens of thousands of people go to work every day, not really able to fuck anything up because it's like a public company that's riding off of billions of dollars of, unfuck-upable cash flow. So I find that kind of fascinating too. But at the end of all of it, this question of purpose is really implicit in the human experience, right? People don't need to necessarily define what their life will be on a piece of paper, but they need to wake up and feel excited. And when they're at work all day long, they should have moments of like enjoyment in their work. So people come to me and they're asking me, okay, well, how do we craft that? Like how the hell do we look at the internal culture essentially of our organization and then figure out ways for people to adopt that culture into whatever it is that their particular, remit is at the organization. So I think this is like a large issue with business. Maybe it's a business in Canada thing, maybe it's global. What's your take on this idea of how people like learn to belong to an organization and contribute to it?
So I think for a large number of businesses, all software businesses, the large number of tech businesses, it's not just a big question, it's the question. Like if we roll back to basics or principles, take a look at a different business, like McDonald's, the core problem they need to solve is the consistency in food prep. So that's their product system is the system. You could argue their marketing, that's mostly handled centrally. Each business unit doesn't need to handle that. So it's that core delivery of food. That's not really a people problem, that's a system design problem. But if you take a look at a software company, the core value is in the people. No company goes and says, oh, hey, our continuous deployment process, is the core value. No, our marketing automation platform, is our core advantage. No, it's around keeping your people aligned, making sure that their tacit knowledge, the tribal knowledge, carries forward so they stay aligned to the customers.
Right.
And you can tell this because the biggest cost item for all of these businesses is not their infrastructure, it's their talent. So you just need to follow the P&L so you can tell that that's what has to be optimized. And if you don't build this system and the infrastructure to really optimize that talent, then you're really wasting your biggest opportunity. And so it's not just a big problem, it's the most important. If you are a company whose primary cost center is your people, then you have to systematize the way you do your culture, the way you do your onboarding, the way you make your culture scalable, or else you won't succeed and you're going to hit a plateau really freaking fast.
Yeah. Oh, I totally concur. And this is where, of course, here now we've even repurposed, right? In the last few years, we killed co-working, we killed office space, we hyper-fractionalized the use cases that people, or drilled down on the hyper-fractionalized use cases that companies have for space. And now we have teams coming here for half-day or full-day sessions with this a la carte thing that you could take. And after this, I'll show you around a little bit just to refresh. But yeah, we have like 3 stages that are fully like AV enabled. So now every experience when people get together is an opportunity to create content. So it can be put in a knowledge base. It could be shared with other external stakeholders. It could also be live broadcasted. And yeah, people can like choose one stage and venue for a session or add multiple together and create any type of agenda that they want. But all of this is really just me focusing on seeing our customers needing a certain type of experience of community and a certain type of corporate event function. And the funny thing is, like 9 times out of 10, most companies that come here don't necessarily know how to define what the event is for, or they know the meta, like we need to get together and that team needs to get together and align. But what type of event is this? How do we format the agenda? How do we plan for the outputs? So we've started a content series just educating people from our learnings of observing thousands of companies, because it doesn't exist. Like these playbooks and the like how you do things, how you run a company isn't necessarily standardized,
It's not standardized. And honestly, we're at this interesting point right now where we're dealing with a bit of a desert, where COVID killed so many community events and so many peer networks that a lot of that tacit knowledge in the ecosystem has been fading. I mean, I remember 10 years ago, talking about the idea of how do you leverage gratitude to drive culture? How do you automate and systematize your onboarding? How do you standardize culture? And these are all things that are solved problems, but folks need to be reminded. And now that there's been a huge gap in meetups, I'm seeing a ton of early stage companies that are missing these things.
Yeah, they're not like word of mouth isn't propagating this best practice, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of first time founders miss the fact that the people you hire won't be the same as yourself. If you're a technical founder and you want to hire the best possible sales rep or leader, they're probably not going to be like you.
Right.
If you want to hire the absolute best finance leader to help you raise money, keep the operations clean, they're probably not going to be like you. And so the way they learn, the way they collaborate, the way they show up, how they fill their cup will be different. And so, yeah, maybe just hanging out in Slack works for a few folks. But for others, you need to get together in person so you can, see each other, break bread, and really build that trust. So,
Yep.
Yeah, we're going through an interesting time where I think the startups that are just founding today are inheriting a lot of problems that previous generations were able to solve just through that word of mouth knowledge share.
It's funny because I hear that it's also internally at large organizations, it's also a problem, right, with big enterprise. If you look at mentorship, and that used to be a thing where if someone's committing their career to a company and they're graduating out or retiring out at let's call it 65, 60, 65, 65. Pre-pandemic, that was kind of a norm. And then post-pandemic, we're now looking at that age in Canada across the board from what I've seen. I mean, you probably know stats more than me on this stuff because this is your industry, but it's gone down by a decade. A lot of people are retiring out or have retired out in their 50s. And they didn't have that extra last decade to start, passing the torch down. They just got out of Shankfest to be at the top. And then they're gone. And someone, in our age set in their 40s is running the show. But they haven't spent quality time with leaders to be able to learn the soft skills or the stuff that's not written down anywhere.
It's funny you say that. I haven't seen those same studies, but it wouldn't surprise me. Because at the same time, I also see a lot of data and studies about teams where their workforce may be aging because they can't fill the funnel on the bottom. So we definitely have this disconnect, either where there's not enough experienced employees to mentor the new ones, or vice versa, where there isn't that same coaching of the next cohort of employees. So it is going to be a challenge across many industries for us.
So again, this is how I guess things moved with moving into a more hands-on way to enable companies to be able to tackle these problems with Uvaro, right? Like learning stuff and how before, and we'll get to the end, how did that company end, but towards the end, what were you working on and what were you excited about?
Both questions have the same answer.
Okay.
We were rolling out programs of upskilling. So not just selling to individuals, a person who said, hey, I was selling in automotive and now I want to be in software. We had that. But we were selling batches of programs to government agencies and nonprofits, where a nonprofit might say, hey, we see this challenge. So a good example, one of our partners is a nonprofit out of the States whose mandate was to help 10,000 Black Americans improve their careers, specifically focused on those who did not have four-year college degrees. And so they worked with us to say, hey, how do we help the demographic we serve upskill? And in that case, that meant, program design, program rollout, different support networks, because an underserved community has unique needs. So we did a lot of program design. And right before we shut down, we actually released an incredible longitudinal study where we took a look at one program we launched in Ottawa for women newcomers. And we looked at them 5 years later. Where were they? Where did they land? And not only were there all the soft indicators, they're happier, they're healthier, all those. But when we took a look at the numbers, for every dollar that the federal government had put into the program, we generated $4 in incremental tax revenue, not even just income to the individual, tax revenue, over an average of 3-year period. So just incredible returns. We were rolling out programs like that left, right, and center.
And
then things wound up. It's tough getting squished between the difficulties of bank financing and government procurement.
Yeah. So the government made up what kind of size of your customer base?
So at the time that we shut down, our government contracts represented a little over 3/4 of our revenues.
Oh, wow.
Different stages of government, different types.
Yeah, that's risky. I mean, you wouldn't traditionally think that is risky, though.
Wouldn't think it's risky because our governments have been spending on workforce development since the 70s. I mean, that's actually why the college system was invented. The Canadian government every year spends about $3 billion a year, and that's just the federal government, on workforce development. That spend is not going away. In fact, in times of uncertainty, during the dot-com bust, during recessions, workforce development spend actually increases.
Sure.
So it's actually a contraindicator for us. However, what did happen, if you think back to early 2025, all of the uncertainty around the Trump tariffs, what happened was that every government agency suddenly gave a small tap on the brakes to say, hey, are we focusing on the right sectors? Not just should we think about kind of EVs and the green economy, but should we actually be revisiting security and defense? And so nobody killed any programs. But there was that brief pause where everyone said, what's going to happen? Should we revisit? And we had just completed a really exciting acquisition. We closed the acquisition of Lighthouse Labs at the end of 2024.
Tell us about that. Like, because even I know Lighthouse Labs from its early days when it was like a school for teaching people how to code.
Yes.
But then it also went through its changes before you acquired it, right?
They went through some changes in terms of expanding their mandate. So they added data science programs, analytics programs. They started running upskilling programs with nonprofits and government agencies, helping people land technical roles. I'm sure you can see the parallel in the two businesses.
Of course.
We brought the companies together because it allowed us to marry their really, really strong skills in teaching technical subjects with our experience on focusing on non-technical subjects and sector focuses. Everyone's always thought about the job you have. Are you a developer? Are you a sales rep? But what we've seen is being a developer at a software company is totally different than being a developer in a military company or in an insurance company.
Sure.
Similarly, being a sales rep in insurance is different than in software. So,
and no one prepares people for the industry that they're going to work in. Yeah.
Yeah. So the future of upskilling really is that kind of matrix that's sector specific and role specific. And so we put the companies together at the end of 2024. The combined companies had a knockout first quarter. We crushed top line, crushed bottom line. I mean, you talk about startups coming from the highest to highs to the lowest to lows. Like, I remember telling advisors this Lighthouse acquisition is going so well, it's spoiling me for all our future acquisitions because it was incredible and absolutely love the leadership team that we brought on. But then the combination of navigating those delays in government contracts and delays in government procurement.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny, you can't make this stuff up. But when your customer says, yeah, no problem, I know that the kickoff is the beginning of August. You should have the countersigned contract at the end of September. That doesn't work.
It's backwards.
I know. But for certain government agencies, that's just how they roll.
Right.
And when you take that kind of paperwork
it's difficult.
to a bank where you're closing or refinancing on your debt instruments, and during all of those Trump tariffs, all the banks rolled back all of their risk profiles.
Yeah, they all got freaked out. Everyone, I mean, they'd already spent a few years being freaked.
So unfortunately, we very rapidly got squished between the types of contracts that we were renewing and had in our pipeline.
Yeah.
And I mean, we had a super, super exciting pipeline, $60 million pipeline, minimal success at about 20 million. So that was what our forecast was for the year. But that pretty much dissolved during the renewal process in from the eyes of the bank. So yeah, that really sucked. It was a pretty abrupt closure. We tried to do things as gracefully as we could for employees and for customers. That was the big focus for us over the summer.
How big, headcount wise, how big was the company at that point?
Just over 60 people.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that was a painful summer.
Yeah, especially that's the thing, the timing thing. And especially like, I guess, what are your lessons, going forward? What have you learned looking at that particular issue? I'm not saying how could you have avoided it, but at the same time, if anyone else is like over-indexed on a particular industry or particular single client that's keeping them afloat, what would you recommend?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one because I've spent a lot of time relitigating it and thinking through it.
Yeah.
And all my friends, colleagues, peers who've gone through that space, 2025 was, I don't want to go so far as to say like a black swan. I mean, COVID gave us this incredible black swan example. And,
this was orange swan.
Yeah, it was. It was the orange swan. There's certain things you can't anticipate. And there's a ton of sectors who were slammed with it.
Oh, we got screwed up big time.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. For us, we had the unfortunate confluence of the surprise timing of the tariffs, which directly impacted some of our sales, as well as refinancing some bank debt with a bank that we weren't as familiar with. We'd brought on the relationship as part of the acquisition. And sometimes you just can't forecast timing, and that really sucks. Honestly, I think one of the toughest lessons in all of this is that there was no major decision that I would have done differently.
Right.
I mean, I can think of a couple of emails that I would have done differently. I had a couple of early investors I didn't follow up with as fast as I should have when things were going sideways. So yeah, there's some minor things I might change, but overall, none of the execution was wrong. We pulled all the right moves, and sometimes you still don't win, and that really, really sucks.
Yeah, and it's a tough one because I think for anyone who's outside of Canada hearing this, who may not understand the functioning of our banking structures as well as the government and how it works as a customer, as well as an investor, everything gets difficult in Canada in this Monty Python way. Like, even for us, it's weird that like we kind of, I guess, bank with, owe money to, I should say, the Business Development Bank of Canada, which is a parastatal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a arm's length owned by the government kind of function. It's a bank that was set up to enable entrepreneurs, but only basically spends debt, and claims they won't go after your house. So everyone, banks with them because, hey, we're not like the other guys. And then the BDC people always tell you on the side, they'll go after your house. Watch out, they'll go after your house. So who knows what the truth is in that. But the point is, government-owned bank, but that's not government-backed.
Correct.
And that's weird because also it's the same bank that acts as the anchor LP in almost every venture fund locally in Canada.
It's a significant LP.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say it's the anchor in every one.
It used to be up until 10 years ago from my angle. It was like they were always doing half of the LP money in every fund.
What's really great is that they don't have to now.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of the newer funds. I'll have BDC participation, but we're seeing more and more diversification on the LPs, and I like that.
But I find it weird, though, that also that despite that want to, participate in encouraging business formation, let's say, and enable companies to transact and stuff with debt, it's not tied to government programming,
Correct.
So the potentiality for that to be the government, for the BDC to represent the government's values and work with the people in some sort of larger, socialist mandate isn't quite there. It's not orchestrated. So I find it interesting, especially like assuming that you're talking about the BDC. Could have been anyone else. I don't know. Who was your
So I'll call it out. It's not the BDC.
Okay.
I mean, there is one of the, the big banks that I've got on my shit list.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's someone there who really had their reasons, and so I won't call them out. But it wasn't BDC. In fact, I like the BDC separation and mandate. They've generated great returns. So for us as a taxpayer, the BDC has been a great return. We had them as an investor, and they were supportive, throughout the way. And really,
they're the most communicative bank.
They are. They're great with that.
Yeah. We have a good relationship with them.
If anything, I think the fact that their capital arm, looks like their venture arm, is so separated from their kind of growth and debt arm, might be a challenge. I think most banks, though, keep their equity and their debt arms separate, though.
Yeah.
I think the bigger challenge that we have as a country, though, is that the most senior people in the banks, all of them, don't come from a tech background. And so what we saw with the institutions we were working with is when things went sideways, like when Silicon Valley Bank, went ass up, and then people moved. And during that time, all of the banks that had some type of innovation banking or alternative lending or some group, all of their risk assessments got rolled up to new risk committees. And the new risk committees are the bank's most senior people, which all come out of mining and finances and manufacturing. So they don't know how to underwrite tech risk.
Yeah.
They just don't know.
Right.
And so that makes everything slower, more difficult. You get really awkward covenants that then distort the business. I think we're really hindered by the fact that we don't have a bank whose senior echelons really understand tech. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, we don't have these like maverick venture funds too that can come in. I mean, things are changing all over the world with how VCs are becoming private equity funds, or the words just are getting thrown out because their amounts of money that they're dealing with are so large that they have to go upstream, downstream, take over extension rounds. Like Sequoia's buying up extension rounds and things.
It's a weird time right now.
Yeah, but that's kind of cool and exciting too. Outside of Canada, we don't see that in Canada, but the idea that capital can flow where there's opportunities, so long as it's wielded by people who understand what an opportunity is and have the ability to commit those funds. Canada suffers from having too much institutionalization, risk aversion, and um, career mindset. I don't know if that's the right way, but like this fear complex in Canada amongst employees. We see it in every industry where, if you're a fearful population, and that could be just fear of anything, fear of change, fear of whatever. How can you be innovative? Innovation can't be spawned in a culture of fear where people are always looking over their shoulder. And so we see this with big companies that like want to innovate, but have to, hire like a third party organization to create skunkworks startups to solve a problem that they should be able to solve internally.
Is that
Things
a
like that.
fear thing though, or is that more of a bureaucracy thing? Like
All intertwined.
yeah, like I do believe that what is it? Necessity is the mother of invention. And when you're at risk of losing something and something's being about to be ripped away from you, like what we're seeing right now geopolitically, I think that's a huge driver of innovation. And you can see that at the grandest scale in the way, countries are responding to military threats. You
Sure.
can see that, economically, like how our company is responding to, our automotive industry being undermined. So I do love how crisis drives innovation. So I wouldn't push it so much from a fear mindset, but I do think we definitely have, I think, pockets of our labor force who are just very, very resistant to change because of fear of kind of losing what they have individually. Maybe not as a sector, but individually.
Yeah, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And that's a shame, right? And because that's not an individual fear; it's a manifestation of a cultural fear.
How much of it do you think is the individuals versus the leaders? I'd love to hear your thoughts because
Well,
I can think of a lot of individuals who won't make a call, won't make a decision because of that fear. And there's part of me that always thinks like, well, that's the fault of the leader on the top who's maybe not giving them that safety to move quickly.
Yeah, because even I think this idea of corporate culture is kind of a difficult one to discuss, right? Because most companies don't establish a culture that's participatory. So what is culture? It's just some doctrine that was written on a weekend, retreat by leadership and then handed down. Is it 5 things to print out and put in the lunchroom? No, it's got to be something that's like owned collaboratively and represents the people, right? An organization needs to be made up of the people to encourage their participation in its success and bringing all the values that they can. So I think without creating cultures, or at least enabling them to be manifested and flourish and stewarded in companies, you're inherently going to be encouraging a culture of fear.
Yeah.
Because there's so much apprehension of doing the wrong thing, but also this there's a lot of presumption and assumption. Like I see this in enterprise all over the country, that large, like 10,000 plus employee companies, most people are not self-driven, right? Like 99% of them
Correct.
are not self-driven for what they do every day. So that's already kind of fucked up. If people are telling you what to do every day, and then you don't necessarily even know how you're being assessed, so you're kind of, and let's add even more fuel to the fire. Your work is make work. Because that's what most white collar people do. They do make work. Like so many white collar people are just like burning the hours to the end of the day. And
I feel like they're prototyping the work that we're just going to delegate to agents.
Exactly, right? It's like all going to be replaced by AI. That's who's getting fired, right? It's all the make work people.
I think you hit on something there. I think a lot of folks miss that your culture and your values are most effective when they can be turned into an operating system. And values they're really only worth anything if they help make you decide faster and move more effectively in moments of stress and ambiguity. If they slow you down and they prevent you from making decisions, it's not effective and they're not worth having.
Speaking of which, you went to Asia.
Yes.
And you picked up some new skills.
Yes. Yeah. Talking about times of stress and uncertainty.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's apt. We shut down the company and I was sitting on my butt playing video games and eating chips for too long.
Really? I don't even know how to play video games anymore, man.
So I had to relearn, but no, Claire Obscura, Expedition 33, absolutely fantastic. But definitely used a lot of time. And I think my wife was really the push to get me off my butt and do something that was going to challenge myself, but something that didn't need the stress of the responsibilities
of
running a
course.
business.
Especially coming out of the drama of having to wind down 60 people's jobs. Like,
oof. So instead, we found a Kung Fu school in China, in Fung, so the same place as the Shaolin Temple.
Wow.
In fact, the founding director of the school, at the time they created the school, he was the head martial arts instructor at the Shaolin Temple. So it gets as OG as you can get. And so I went there for 2 months for full-time.
Just by yourself? Family stayed here?
Oh no, my wife did me such a big favor. She watched the kids. I was on my own. I only had to train, eat, sleep. My only decision was on the day I get off, Sunday, do I rest or maybe go for a walk to see the sights? So super, super restorative.
So 6 days a week in practice?
6 hours a day, 6 days a week.
6 hours a day?
Yeah.
But you're waking up like 4 a.m. or something?
Not quite that bad, but by 5:45, the kids were outside training and the Reveille was running. And so we'd hit breakfast at 7 and we'd be on the training floor at 8.
What's breakfast?
Honestly, it felt a little bit like what you can imagine some kind of a prison camp. It's like you get the metal tray, you hit up the line, they're throwing whatever they've got for the day on your plate. It's all delicious, and you can decide how much you want.
What are examples of meals?
So we'd have a lot of rice porridge, like a lot of zhou, a lot of baozi, so like a lot of the buns, a ton of stir-fried vegetables, whether it was carrots, cabbage, everything. It was all delicious.
But carbs and vegetables.
A lot of carbs, a lot of fat.
And then what's the lunch?
A lot of the same. Typically for lunch, there's a lot of noodles dishes as well. Stir-fried meat, some tofu that was in there.
Okay.
And then for dinner, a lot of the same.
Wow. Yeah. And it's constant activity for 6 hours?
With the exception of about a 2-hour break at lunch. So we'd be training from 8 to 11:30, grab a lunch. You can have a quick siesta, then you're back on the training floor at 2. That takes you until 5. You got dinner, and then there was an evening training as well.
Who were the majority of the other people that were there?
So it was interesting. The school itself is the largest martial arts school in China.
Wow.
I can't even, it's so hard to describe the scope. And this town is about 500,000 people, and martial arts training was their industry. I was at the largest school, 36,000 students. But there were schools
and this is
there,
historical, going back hundreds of years.
So this specific school was built in the 1960s.
Oh.
So it's relatively newer. The Shaolin Temple has been there way over 1,000 years. So the history of martial arts training in that community is really long lasting.
Yeah.
But most of the schools are newer.
Okay.
But there were schools that had hundreds of students, a few that had thousands. This one's the largest, but it's a boarding school. So the kids were 6 years old to 18 years old, focused on martial arts training. They'd have some academics between 10:30 and 2:30.
Oh, really? So
But
school. This is a school.
It is a boarding school with like lowercase a academics and uppercase M for martial arts.
Yeah.
So a lot of them would go out into the military or police or first responders, but they were hardcore. They kept the foreigners separate to avoid the distraction. And there was like a half dozen of us at a time.
That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
And so the other people that were your comrades, foreigners from around the world, where were they from? And
all over the world.
Yeah.
Very little similarity. I mean, Israel, Denmark, Georgia, Russia, New Zealand, all over.
Wow.
The only common threads were that for a lot of them, they had just finished their military service.
Yeah.
They were taking some time to travel and see the world, and they'd come and do training for a few weeks. And they were all much younger than I. So I was definitely the oldest amongst the group. So as we're practicing our clip, kicks and flips, it was tough.
Oh, I'm sure. So can you do a backflip?
Not well.
But like you won't land on your head and break it?
If I did one right now, I would probably land on my head. While I was there, though.
Put you on the spot.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah. And the training was hilarious because here I think we really pride ourselves on, as a society, on the professionalism of our training and our coaching. There, the coaches were just the best of the martial artists. Like, it's a very coveted role to be one of the trainers, especially teaching the international students. But their idea of training was like, okay, now we're doing flips. Here, I did one. Now you go.
And it's not like, okay, well, how should I move my feet? What should I do?
Oh, no.
Good, because it shouldn't be cerebralized, you know?
No, at all. I mean, they only had about a dozen English words.
Did they smack you?
It was more of a 30-centimeter ruler. had a marker that wrote discipline in Chinese on it.
Really?
Oh, for sure.
And you got smacked?
I didn't.
Oh,
Kidding? I was going to follow the rules. I saw one kid, he showed up 20 minutes late to class. He had to do 200 push-ups. No, I was going to follow the rules.
and he did 200? He was able to?
It took him an hour and he had noodles for arms, but he did them.
Oh my goodness, this is amazing.
Yeah, the coach threatened him if he was late the next day, it would be 250 and then it would be 300.
Wow. I love it. This is real.
It's given me some brand new philosophies for how to discipline my own kids at home.
You're like, I'm way too soft on these guys.
I know.
What? Oh, my wife's going to love that. Okay. And you were there for 2 months?
For 2 months.
When did you get back?
Just got back right before Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did it feel to come back from that?
It was amazing. I mean, I loved it. I would go to study martial arts again. I can't recommend it enough. But I was ready to be back. Miss the kids, miss the routine. And I was very much a couch potato beforehand. And so it really helped me reset my own physical clock to want the exercise. And I was ready to start to build those habits. So came back, got some downtime with the holidays, and now really just trying to build new routines into my life.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from a work standpoint, what do you think is around the horizon, or is it a total open territory?
Total open territory in the sense of the being there, learning underneath the tutelage of some incredible martial arts experts. I went to the hometown of Tai Chi where it was invented and worked with so the Chen family that founded Chen style Tai Chi, went to their school. All of that really helped me let go of trying to choose my own path and see what comes to me. So right now I'm taking the time to build new routines around activity, really refine my thinking on kind of sectors, areas that interest me, the kind of work I want to do, and waiting to see what comes to me. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Do you think this impulse to throw yourself into stuff traditionally for entrepreneurs is because we're excited about problem solving?
I think that's part of it, but I think part of it is that addiction to be productive. I mean, most of the founders and the entrepreneurs that I know, when I ask them when they're feeling their best, and me as well,
doing something.
I'm doing something. I feel productive.
Oh yeah.
How was your day?
This is why
accomplish so much.
This is why I do photography. It's like,
Totally.
I've got an hour to kill while my daughter's in gymnastics class. I'm going to go for a walk in the neighborhood and take photos.
It's super productive. And I don't know if it's the dopamine hit, if it's something else in that sense of self-value. I don't know if it's, immigrant upbringing, all of these things, but that addiction to productivity, I think, is part of the reason entrepreneurs just throw themselves into the next thing. And I'm really trying to improve my relationship with my process and my practice and not worrying as much about the productivity and the outputs. And honestly, that's when I did that, that's when I trained better when I was in China. It's when I felt more satisfied with my day-to-day work and just more balanced. And so I'm going to see if I can really put that into practice in my own professional work too.
I love it. It's funny because it's something I've been meditating on myself in the last few months. It's like when you're building and in build mode, you're just problem solving. Absolutely. And that, yeah, it can be addictive to want to solve problems. Like I was talking to a friend of ours who's a senior partner at a law firm of well repute. And she admitted to me that like when it's slow, which could be 4 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, she's doing this to her email, reload, something come in to tell me to do something. And I'm like, that's too much. You're doing too much, And I thought that was just like, that was the extent. I'm never that bad, but why would anyone want to do that? In every conversation now that I'm having this year with people, especially self-driven people, like leaders, whether they're, in organizations as employees or owners of businesses and founders, is like, this shit should be fun. Like business should be fun. And I do believe there are macro cultural kind of problems in Canada that are easy to adopt, especially in a city like Toronto, a bigger city, that's like got this legacy of perhaps it's, what do you call it? It's like Protestant work ethic, 9-to-5 culture. You work, you go home, you watch some TV, you go to bed, you work, and the same thing over and over again. Where's the fun? You know, and so for people who can craft their day, I've been reminding people as well that like, you know, you have the power to see what your work is going to be for the week and plan that to be in line with whatever lifestyle you want to craft. But you have to craft your lifestyle. I'm 45. I keep meeting people who are 5, 10 years my senior, who always look back on this decade and say it's the toughest decade because you have to make those choices. And if you don't, you know, you turn into that guy that you used to look at and see on a bus or something and be like, I don't want to be that guy.
It's so hard, and it is tough in this decade because I think we're expected to have our shit figured out right now. And so there's that innate desire to be an expert, if not in a subject, then in our own lives. And I think that desire to be really successful and accomplished, you know, prevents us from doing the things that are fun. Like when I think about when I have the most fun and joy,
Yeah.
it's when I'm discovering new things, learning new things. So my wife and I are doing bachata classes.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, it is. It's so much fun. And it's so good to be a novice and noob at something. The Kung Fu training was so far beyond my comfort zone, but it was also really good. Spending much time working on my Chinese studies. And I never spoke Chinese growing up. So learning it now as an adult is really tough. And I say a lot of awkward things. Like if I'm trying to chat with someone in Chinese and I go to call them dude or bro, I'm probably going to accidentally call them turkey. Like that shit's going to happen.
Yeah,
and I think we need to surround ourselves with, you know, things that are fun, because we're not always going to get it from work.
You know, definitely not. Definitely not. Yeah. And on that note, it was awesome spending some time talking about your career.
Likewise, Kasim. This was really fun. Thanks for having me in.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure.